Hello everyone. So in this video, I'm going to go through my system, what exactly I use for my students, for myself. I will explain certain principles. I will explain how I would get myself or my client from A to B. I will explain the macro cycles, my way of training. I will explain all the 4 principles that I'm focusing on. I will explain the specificity of adaptation or the principles of specificity, the principles of the progressive adaptation. So there's going to be a lot of cool info you might not heard before. By all means, I didn't create this. I simply found the people that I trust within this realm or this space. And yeah, I've just kind of gathered all the information. I tried it because you always start with a theory, and I applied it into a practical sense through my own experience and through giving these tools to my students and my clients. All right, let's start this. Frederick, he works long hours at the computer and was struggling with stiff hips, low back pain, and confusion from all the training advice online. He joined one of my mobility classes in Uluwatu. That's where I used to work one-to-ones. Over 6 months, we built a system that gave him freedom of movement. It was 6 months. It was 5 to 6 months. And built a system that gave him freedom of movement, strength, and clarity. He's now traveling the world, and when he returns, we will set fresh goals to push his progress further. So his pains or goals was get rid of his low back pain, improve his spinal strength, improve his hip region flexibility, improve his body capabilities. So what steps I used to get him from pain to pain-free? So this was around 3 to 6 months. There's going to be a lot of different case studies, but I want to particularly speak about Frederick's. And so this was around 4 to 5 month difference. So from avoiding the gym out of fear of pain to chasing strength goals again. And I will just go through every single one of them so you have some proof of work. This was around 5 months period of time. We need to understand that everybody will progress differently based on how big of a hole you have digged from not doing mobility, not doing end range training, not doing a certain specific joint or capsular training, strengthening in order to have the prerequisite to do the squats, to do the muscle ups, to do handstands, to do middle splits, right? To be able to run or sprint. There's a foundation that cannot be ignored. And there's a lot of us, many people just don't understand the importance of the foundation. Because if you want to move well for rest of your life, because lifestyle, this is lifestyle, we are doing this to improve our quality of life. So that means we're going to have to do this for the rest of our lives, not just getting 3-month, 4-month, 5-month goals. We get there and then, okay, how can we maintain this so we have the quality that we want later on in life? So again, these are just perfect examples of like what can be achieved in 3 to 6 months time. So Jenna, she achieved her external rotation in 3 months time. This was a 12-week process. I will explain you why joint rotation is crucial. And we have another one of the students. So from, having barely any lock, having a not much of a spinal flexion and the depth to like almost touching the ground and getting full lock. Like these are the students I work with that followed what I gave them close to like 90 to 100%. Frederick, there's few people that kind of had a few weeks off because of work or people got sick and whatnot. So there's always a setbacks, right? So that's what we need to consider also. But these are huge, like, being able to touch the ground and not having a low back pain and, hip flexor pain, a little mistake there. So Andrea, he achieved all of this in around 6 months. Yeah, just around 6 months. And it's like, this is huge. Like, you don't understand how much of a freedom they have now in their life because they can move. They can do Muay Thai, they can run without fearing that they're gonna injure themselves. They can lift more, they can lift more complex exercises or load more complex drills. So yeah, this is amazing. Like, from one of my students here, Sebastian, from not being able to, like, actually, let me pause this. All right, I got you some videos. So the photos just does not justice. Like, it just doesn't show exactly what happened. So for instance, let's have a look at the Frederick's good morning. So we started with literally bench. So he was struggling, like he was struggling to moving down. And he was struggling to moving through that spinal flexion. And then look, he then we strengthened. He now goes all the way down with that's 15. How much that is 15? I think that's around 60 kg on good mornings. It's crazy. Like, for instance, there was another one. Where is the other video? Okay, so now he was struggling with hip pain on through the, so that's the left side. So that's the left side. So look at that. Like, he could barely move. Like, you can just see his facial expression. He's struggling, man. Like, look, if you zoom in. And now he's going through week 26. Absolutely crushing it. Look at that range. Look at that range. Insane. Absolutely insane. Then we have another one. So Andreas, I wish I'd like record every single client. Oh, how can I switch the music down? There's no music. There we go. All right, so Andreas, so you could barely do Cossack squat. Barely, like he's struggling. He's doing a lot of work just to do this. Boom. This was again around, I don't know, 5 months later or something. He's fucking moving from this to going all the way down. This is insane. Like, how is this not like, look again, so boom, have barely range of motion. He's struggling. Like, this is his end range. Look at his face, right? He's feeling the stretch to this, being able to touch the ground, upright, chilling, absolutely chilling, to being able to start loading up and going through some complexity. Look at that. Look, this is the other leg though, so this is, but still, like, the point is, what we're doing, it works. Look, barely going down. Barely going down. Like, it's just, I am so happy about these. Look at that. Look at that spinal movement, even better. Like, we have to go back. There's the things we have to integrate. We have to create awareness. We got to move little bit by little bit. This is fucking amazing, you know. And again, Blake showing perfect. Look at the good morning. Could be better. Bit rounded back. Not much of a good hinging movement in the hips. So around here. So see how he broke? He was breaking around here. His mid area was breaking. Boom. Look at that. At 60 kg. He was doing 70 kg. This is not the best video though, but look at that. Look at that form. Absolutely, like, it's incredible. Same from Jefferson curls. Moving from, you know, look at this range versus this. Look how better spinal flexion, the strength. So this is not his personal best. This is 60 kg. He was doing 70 for 5 kg, 5 reps. 70 kg for 5 reps. This is again December, March. So this is like 3-month difference. Insane. Here also, I don't have befores, but he had a problem with the Achilles in his ankle, and we had to use a plate, but now he's not using plate, and he's doing this, that's like, I think it's like 60 kg, 65 kg. Insane. Like, try and do that in your training. Like, even try and get into this position, let alone loading up extra 60 kg. Again, Blake done absolutely insane, like with following through. Like, he was struggling with Cossacks, right? We're working on a range. It wasn't the best. There's some efforts, great control though. Control 2. Insane. To 50 kg Cossack squat. Try and do 50 kg Cossack squat. Right? This does not lie. This doesn't lie. You can't, the photos does not show such incredible things these students have done to themselves. Invested, worked consistently, willing to change and willing to put all the hard work, because this is not easy. Like, this is like mobility training, strength training is absolutely, it's so hard. Like, you'll be surprised how much effort and energy you actually give into these training sessions. So why most people fail? So most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because their approach is incomplete. They don't have the system. They don't understand the system, right? So they stretch passively. Stretching might feel good in a moment, but it doesn't create lasting changes. It's stretching, feeding somewhat confidence in your nervous system that you can relax. A lot of people cannot relax. So, I mean, stretching is great. There's time and place for it, but all of this, what you just saw, is far from stretching. So passive inputs equal passive results. Your nervous system won't let you keep new range unless you show strength there. And this is what I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you my system. I'll give you everything for free. You can use it. You can understand it. You can research in YouTube even more, or watch look some studies. So it's like pulling on a rubber band. You stretch it out, but as soon as you let go, it snaps right back. Same stretching, right? They repeat the same exercise patterns. Gym machines and barbell lifts in straight lines only train what you already own. The body doesn't break where it's strong. It breaks in ignored angles and rotations. So again, I've done a lot of rotational work with these clients. So in order for them to get where they are, we didn't do what you saw they did. We did a lot of rotation, hip rotation, spinal flexion extension, spinal transverse rotation, working through some sagittal planes. So frontal movements, frontal planes. So there's a process that gets these clients safely where they are and strong and resilient with the right approach. So the body doesn't, so imagine only turning your car left every time you drive. It might seem fine at first, but the tires wear unevenly and eventually something blows up. Easy. It happens with everyone, including me. I was the same person. So they ignore recovery and tissue timelines. So muscle adapts quickly. So I'm going to go through this later on, so keep it with it. Tendons, ligaments, and cartilage adapt slowly, and bones adapts differently also. So people get impatient, overloaded too soon, injury, or no progress. Adaptation happens in recovery, not the session. You wouldn't expect a tree to grow overnight just because you water it once. And the injuries happen is because the load exceeds the tissue's load-bearing capacity. In simple words, meaning that the load is too much for the tissue to handle it, or what the tissue has been handling it. That's why a lot of people fuck themselves up, because they never loaded certain positions, and they just ruin the body. So evolutionary perspective, humans aren't broken, our environment is. Your body runs Stone Age software. We need to remember, like, for 99% of history, we squatted to rest, crawled, sprinted, climbed, carried. That's the operating system you're built on. Then chairs, cars, and laptops came in. We locked our hips at 90-degree angle, rounded our spines, stopped rotating our shoulders. So picture this, right? You wake up. I don't know. I'm just speaking from my experience to what I used to do, and I've been moving quite a lot, but I did used to sit a lot. So I wake up, I sit to get my coffee, I sit to do some work. And actually, I was quite a lot on the. Okay, I'm a bad example. Okay, let's go for like an average Joe that works at a desk or works in an office, or average Claire that works in an office. So you guys get up, you have a coffee from the same cup, you sit down to have coffee or stand up. You then commute, which might be another 30 minutes. Again, I'm just generalizing it. You sit there unless the train is full and you have to stand for 30 minutes, which is absolutely terrible, terrifying. It's just so exhausting. So when you get to work, you sit again, right? So you have lunch, you sit. You go back to work, you sit. You again commute back or drive, sit. You sit down on a couch to watch TV. You're constantly in this position. Like, it's not just work, it's like, okay, how do you eat? You eat on the table. Okay, where do you watch TV? You sit on a couch in the same position as you was doing the last 7-8 hours of the day. And imagine accumulation of doing this every single day, right? So it's like downloading new apps onto an old phone. Eventually it crashes, not because the phone is bad, but because the software isn't updated. You know, have you ever had you haven't updated your old phone and then you try to download something and it just brings up an error? Exactly the same thing with the body. Like, we are not meant to sit, we are meant to move. Movement equals life, right? So my method is a software update. It gives your body back the patterns it was designed for, so you can move pain-free again. And I'll give you exactly the system I use that you can apply in your training, but there's layers. You can't move from 1 to 3. You have to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Okay? All right, so here are the Human Mechanic method. So this is the method I use that is not built. It's built by me, but it's taken from others. Okay? There's this really interesting, very valuable quote. It's like, a good artist copy, great artist still, right? So you steal the idea, you make it in your own idea. Make it better, make it more applicable to what you're trying to present. So step 1, you got to understand these foundations. You have to, this is non-negotiable. You need to understand why you do what you do, so you have an intention, and then you're going to treat these things way differently. So first, we have movement is the only nutrient for joints. Joints are like a sponge. You squeeze and release equals hydration, nutrients, health. If left still, they dry out and crack. So any movement you do, you need to have a capacity to move your joint. You got to have a good rotation in your joint. Elbow joint, wrist, shoulder, spinal, hips, knee, ankle, you know, these joints are there for a reason. And the reason is to move. Like, we need to remember that all the exercises and sports are made by humans. It's human made. They don't serve any purpose in our lives in a sense of like survival, right? So in purpose is like, okay, there's a hobby, it makes us happier, it builds aesthetically resilient body, it builds a beautiful art, it gives us a mission, it's fun and entertaining to watch people play sports. There's a lot of money in sports, right? There's a lot of money, a lot of gambling, a lot of betting. You know, it's a system, right? So principle of progressive adaptability. Let's go here. So there's bone adaptation, there's tendon ligament adaptation, there's muscular adaptation, there's neurological adaptation, there's extracellular matrix or fascia adaptation or connective tissue adaptation. For these adapt differently through different law. Like, for instance, bone, tendons, ligaments, muscular can adapt through a external So from force, from impact, bone, tendons from impact, bone also from strength training, muscular from contraction based or contractile training, and neurological adaptation is through a irradiation, or how much force you can extract from your nervous system. Extracellular matrix or connective tissue training, which is emphasized, or you can emphasize through length training. Right. So all of these has a different purpose and different way to adapt your body with load or with exercises. So here's a beautiful graph. So tissue adaptation. As you can see, this is weeks. So nerve or neurological, these are quite fast, right? And they're kind of like, they're very, very, like it's 20 week later, which is around 5 months. So this is what me or my clients around 20 to, yes, 5, 6, 7 month period of time. This is where you kind of like the software becoming resilient, but with consistency, with slow progression, with awareness, with understanding why you do what you do, and with the right execution in exercises. So you can see how ligaments and tendons and cartilage that builds like this is years of constant loading. Like I'm not going to talk too much about this, but just to paint a picture that if you want to change your body, there's a lot of fascial and neurological stuff that changes, and it changes with a slower pace of muscle, right? Way slower. Like it's 2 times, 3 times less slower. So it takes time. You have to, this is non-negotiable. You have to respect the biological systems. You can't force these things. There's no point forcing it. You're just going to blow your system up again. So this is crazy. Like, look at the ligaments here. Look at that rock climber. So this is decade of training. Ligament, huge, massive. And look at the powerlifters. Nothing. I have a little bit there. Nothing. Mine's not big at all. But this is ridiculous. You can't draw. Okay, that's annoying. This is ridiculous, right? So over a decade of training as a rock climber versus powerlifter, you can see a huge difference in this. Yeah, tendons. It takes time. Okay, this is also very interesting before we move into the next thing. So beginner versus advanced lifters. All right, so you can see how performance at novice versus advanced, and how rate of adaptation very high at the beginning and then it slows down. Very high performance, your newbie gains, so you get faster, bigger, way quicker. First year to 2 years, incredible results if you do things correctly. And so it says newbies gains. So beginners adapt at fastest, big jumps in strength and performance in the first 1 to 2 years. As you become more advanced, adaptation slows down. Training must get more specific and patient because progress takes longer. So as you can see, as more advanced, like I've been training for a decade, so it takes me longer to adapt, longer recoveries, more specific training, more intentional training, more. I need to know what I need to do to achieve a certain goal. I can't just throw in new random exercise in every single week. I have to have a purpose. So beginners see change quickly because everything is new. Advanced lifters must respect slower timelines. This is science. You can argue with science, but this has been studied for decades. So it's a precision beats randomness. So this is also interesting with natural versus drug enhanced progress. So natural adaptations, performance, hypertrophy, and neural adaptations all grow together through more slow over time. More slow over time. Whereas when you with the performance enhancing drugs, muscle growth and performance skyrocket, but the neural adaptation stays at this natural pace, which is such an important thing to keep this in consideration. If you take steroids, I'm not judging people who are taking it, but you need to understand what you're doing to your body and what's happening biologically and neurologically. So meaning even if drugs make you stronger, your nervous system doesn't speed up. And everything happens from neurologically. Strength is not biological, it's actually neurological. So when you watch some of the Keith Bar stuff or studies, when he was actually making athletes stronger, he noticed that their muscle mass decreased, but they were getting stronger, right? So this is crucial to take into consideration in your training, especially if you're taking it seriously, right? Next, a principle of progressive adaptation. There's a time and place, and we need to respect the adaptation. Principle of specificity. The adaptation is specific to demands. If you want to improve your internal rotation, you have to train your internal rotation. If you want your hip to handle 90% of maximum voluntary contraction, you have to train your hip through 90% maximum voluntary contraction, right? In order to improve your shoulder joint, you just doing 10% effort is not gonna allow your shoulder to adapt to maximum effort or voluntary contraction loading. Specificity, law or principle specificity. In order to learn language, you're gonna study that language, not other language. You have to do what you want to improve in. So this is also important, the length and tension curve. And there's also the force and velocity curve, or the velocity curve, which is, I haven't included it, but it's important also to understand, but I feel like these ones are more crucial to how I present my training or give things to students. So this is a short contraction. There we go. Short contraction, meaning this is where my bicep is at the shortest, and this end is where my bicep is at my length. So when you train your body through its full range of motion, adding tension both at the short and long lengths, you naturally improve your length tension curve. This is the key to build healthier and more resilient tissue. But a lot of people have more passive range than active range. So usually this is healthy. This is kind of like very, very good ratio. But most of the people, they have great passive range, but their active range is just like 70% or less. So in order to improve this, you got to work through your passive range. But sometimes people I move some of my students here passively, and they cannot move any higher than that. That means we need to improve passive range before improving active range, which is another video, but that's I'm going to be speaking about this anyway later on. The afferent and afferent connections. Again, this is crucial. Creating space in joints. By introducing tension through pales and rails, this is the only known way to remodel joint space by creating more space. There's a bloody mosquito somewhere here. I do not like mosquitoes in my room. So building strong and efficient connections from your tissue to spinal cord and from spinal cord to your tissues, which is through movement and force. Okay. So this is what I understand, and this is what I include in my training through certain systems and principles. I highly recommend you, if you really want to understand the system I use, this is all on the internet. You just have to dig deep. You have to watch a lot of hours of videos. You have to apply them to a theory, to a practical. The theory without practical is nothing. You have to apply and understand how your body remodels through your own pace. Okay, step 2, the Human Mechanik principle. So this is what I use for myself and my students. This is what I've studied. This is what works for me. And there's more nuances and sub-layers to this, but these are the main things that I take into consideration when I work with someone. So, workspace over everything. You cannot move where you cannot move. If you can move this high, me forcing you to go in a military press, I'm just gonna give you a damage. There's just, you can't improve that if you cannot passively move in that zone. Rotational work over linear, exempt spine. So trying to squat heavy without hip rotation is like trying to drive a car with steering wheel locked straight. You'll blow a tire eventually. And in a squat, you don't need a lot of rotation as you're squatting linearly, but your capsule needs space to move, because not every squat is going to be perfect squat. And there's going to be some variabilities that might come into a challenging squat that your hip should be able to handle it. And especially when you look at the powerlifters, I should really get a video, but when you like type in, I don't know, some very strong powerlifters on Instagram or TikTok, See how they cave in their knees when they go like doing a clean and press. So look how their knees cave in. If you don't have an internal rotation, or you never trained your internal rotation, when you load to such extent that you go down into that deep squat and then you move your knees internally, your hip's gonna blow up. Why? Because there's no law of specificity been uh, included in these trainings, and there's no law of adaptation because you cannot train where you cannot move into. Right? So your hip has to have a lubricated joint just to be prepared for variabilities that you can't expect. Things gonna go as maybe you don't as you're not planning it to go. Pales and rails principles with right intent. Pales and rails principles with right intensity. Passive inputs give passive results. Active inputs give active results. Respect your body's recovery. Adaptation happens in recovery, not the sessions, and everyone adapts differently. We need to understand how big of a hole did you dig to get where you are now. I always say to people, like, okay, if someone who's never done any mobility work, they've just been doing bodybuilding for like 5 years, and they're digging a hole because there's lack of foundation, versus someone who's been doing mobility and they've been doing it for a little bit, but they've kind of injured themselves, so the hole is less. Okay, so let me give you a example. So for instance, someone have a low back pain and they haven't done any mobility for 5 years, so there've been accumulation of scar tissue and fear through nervous system, so they're digging a big hole. All right, so if I help them by passing them a ladder, it's going to take them way longer to climb out that hole, versus someone who's been doing some movement, some mobility, and they injured themselves just recently, but they move well. The hole is less deep. So when I give them when I give them the ladder, it's gonna take them faster to climb out that hole, that injury, right? Short before length training, so build better mind muscle connection by contracting tissues before loading at the length. So you got to have mind muscle connection before loading it at length and creating complexity through your movements. Microdose daily movements every single day. Squatting a little bit, moving your shoulders, your hips, everything should be done daily. It's just a little movements, just moving, right? Just like brushing your teeth, you don't wait for your teeth to rot before you clean them. Cars are brushing your joint. Progressive overload through zones that are necessary. Trans-specific zone movement patterns based on your goals. Goal is to increase strength through active range of motion unless passive range is non-existing. So if lack passive range equals, use pales and rails to increase passive range of motion. If have passive range but lack strength through active range, stress your current available passive range of motion. So this is the principles I use. Train with intention and correct level intensity. You become whatever signals you feed to your physical and mental state, right? So this is a kind of like step 3 to how I would integrate my client and my own training. So first is I bleed 70% effort. So maybe I had to use different wording, nomenclature, but bleeding meaning like, you know what I mean? I'm just using a lot of energy. So 70%, 70% effort. So some stimulation, but not enough. And I usually do it. All of my, maybe sometimes I use some loading through my prepping. So this is just like a prep movement. Car short range and mind muscle connection, just switching stuff up. Core stuff, I'll do a lot of core stuff with my clients. Primary, so I have them first primary lift, second primary lift. Again, the energy, you're not going to have as much tank when you do the second primary lift. So we need to treat this with caution, meaning I want you to focus on whatever the goal is, which is the first primary lift. It could be anything from mobility training, it could be anything from strength training. I mean, this will be somewhere where you're going to have to push maximum effort in order to have the right stimulation for your nervous system and biology to adapt. And then when you've done that, then we got some accessory work. It could be 2, 3 exercises, 4 exercises, depending the goals, depending how much training you want to get from me or out of your session. It's all tailored. So I still push the max to some degree, but the load is nowhere near to my max lift. So as you can see here, I have shoulder cars, band and shoulder flexion isos, two rounds, 30 seconds isometrics, 3 to 5 reps. Then I might do some every minute a minute. So this is a very amazing approach I use. For 10 minutes, I do 2 reps for 80% of my max effort. And that's how I gonna get strong. This is how I train for myself. But also some of my clients do every minute on minute also. Yeah, so it's kind of like there's more nuances and more things that take into consideration, but this is my template. This is my layout. You can have this for free. If you've been watching so far, that means that you're interested, and that means that you believe in my shit, in my stuff, in the system I use. Right? So this is not random. This is really a system that works 100% of the time, unless you haven't using certain things in the right zones with the right intensity, or you haven't been respecting your body's recovery. And then how I cycle programming. I don't really do like a 6 week, 8 week, 10 week, 12 week cycles. I do based on how your body feels, based on where you at, based on your recovery, based on your sleep, based on your plateaus, based on your progress. So first we build awareness. Assess your body and movement, identify imbalances between left and right side or between certain movements. Pinpoint zones that feel tight, restricted, and painful. Notice where you lack passive range of motion and recognize where neurological connections are weak. Build mind muscle awareness and create space in your joints. Then I have phase 2, which is confidence, being loaded tissues that haven't been trained. Pails and rails equals expand joint space and build neurological resilience. Listen to your body's feedback and adjust accordingly. Increase intensity up to 80% in a joint specific work. Again, the neurological training is we have to build up. We can't just go 0 to 100 straight away. It takes time. If you go 0 to 100, the tissue hasn't been handling 100% effort, so you're going to blow your tissue up again. This is not me making things up. This is science. This is what your biology does. It adapts. And if it's never been loaded or worked through certain intensities, it's going to blow up. Confidence, then through strength, using a bunch of systems like isometric loading, pails and rails, lift-offs, hovers, end range rotation, neurological training, neuro grooving. And then we go add complexity. Again, this is where it's fun. This is where we're loading things you couldn't imagine you could load. And this is my system. So what neuro grooving means and why is it important? So your brain learns movement through feedback loops. Every time you move, your joints sends information back to the central nervous system. Afferents, meaning the body sending signals from the joint or from that tissue or wherever the signal is coming from into the spinal cord. And then efferent is coming from spinal cord to the body. And the brain then updates its map or the software of how to move. When we sleep, this happens. Okay, the updates and the progress happens when we sleep. That's why deep sleep is super crucial for your progress. The capsule is deepest, the most important source of information. Signals from the joint capsule bypasses many neural pathways and goes straight to the higher senses, cerebellum and thalamus. That makes capsule health critical. It's like the brain's GPS for movement. And then, my camera died, so I had to charge it. So where we were. So neuro grooving, it equals reinforcing efficient movement patterns, but repeatedly moving through controlled, precise ranges like cars, pails and rails, isometric holding, liftovers, hovers, neuro grooving, being able to connect and develop efferent and afferent connections from your spinal cord to your tissue or your joint, mainly your joint. So you're literally grooving neural pathways. The nervous system selects better patterns over time and discards poor and compensatory ones. So if joints lack space or feedback, you can't groove good patterns. Meaning if you cannot move into a specific position, you cannot groove or train that position neurologically. That's why capsular space or joint space is crucial for bodybuilding, for strength, for movements, for skill work, from sports. Because if you don't have space, you cannot progressively create complex system or system that adapt through a variabilities, okay, or move through variabilities. It doesn't need a one perfect squat or perfect narrow squat. It can squat in multiple different ways. If joints lack space or feedback, you can't groove good patterns. Without clean afferent input, mechanoreceptors, capsule health, the brain is working with bad data. That leads to poor motor learning and higher risk of injury. That means to poor quality learning. That means to poor handstand learning. That means to poor pull-up learning. That means to poor running. That means to poor sports activities, right? So it compounds. And it's important to understand this. It's important to understand this. This can be different to everyone. Like some people might have one primary lift. This is what you need to figure out what works for you and your students. This works for me. And what works for me doesn't necessarily mean work that will work for everyone else. So I have to modify things if needed. So why neuro grooving matters? Movement equals brain maps. Your nervous system doesn't move muscles, it runs on maps. Every time you move a joint with precision, you teach your brain a better pattern. Without this, your brain keeps relying on sloppy compensatory patterns. That's what I mean. Like, you have to have a good passive range, or you have to have good prerequisites in order to do something well and efficiently with less danger, or with not putting yourself at the risk of blowing up your hip and then having a fucking surgery, blowing up your shoulder and having a surgery, blowing up your lower back and having a surgery. That's the worst scenario. And I worked with someone who he had a surgery. 3 months later after the surgery, he did something else to the. It was L5, L4. So he had a surgery on L4, and then 3 months later he did something else, and then he was like, "Fuck! There's something there again." So after 3 months from when he injured his L4 or low back, he reached out to me. So that's been 6 months from his surgery. So we applied all the systems that I've just explained you. This is exactly what I've done. We've created awareness. We found the weak links. We started loading isometrically, slowly building confidence. So within, I would say, 2 months in, he was also doing a physiotherapy and massage therapist that actually made things worse. And one morning he woke up. I think he had like a 2 days rest. There was zero pain in our training, zero pain. Okay, so he woke up. After this physio session or the manual therapy session, he woke up. He felt very sore and very inflamed. Then he flew to Europe, from Asia to Europe. So that was 18 to 24-hour flight, and he got worse. Like, he literally got worse. And few weeks later in Europe, he had an MRI, and he found out that he's got L5 bulge disc. So now he might be going to a second surgery. So we kind of stopped training till he comes back from Asia, and we're going to start prepping him for surgery or rehabilitation before surgery. So that's like the worst scenario, having 2 surgeries for your low back, or 2 surgeries for your hip, or 2 surgeries for your shoulder. And you don't want to be there. You want to use the system. You want to apply. You want to fix your shit ASAP, and then you want to start loading and having a quality of life, right? As soon as you have a surgery, your body is never like the same. We have to remember that. That's something that, like, it didn't happen for a randomness. It happened because your biology and neurology, there was disturbance. You were pushing your body to such extent that it couldn't even move there without forcing it to move there. That's why prerequisites and training your nervous system, training your body and your nervous system and body, like having these connections, are so important. So why neuro grooving matters. So movement equals brain maps. Your nervous system doesn't just move muscle; it runs on maps. Every time you move a joint with precision, you teach your brain a better map. Without this, your brain keeps relying on sloppy compensatory patterns. Strength without control equals risk. You can load strength on top of bad movement, but that just makes you better at moving poorly. Neurogrooving ensures your nervous system owns that range first so strength becomes safe and sustainable. Consistency creates efficiency. The more you repeat a clean movement, the more efficient your neural pathways become at that clean movement. Think of it like carving a trail. Repetition turns it into a highway. The efficiency is what lets people move pain-free without thinking about it. But adapting efficiency through right input, through right intensity, through right movement patterns is what changes the system. Nothing's random. There's an intention. When you have intention, your biology and neurology works with the intention, right? Capsule, meaning joint, with brain equals survival data. So the joint capsule sends the strongest, most direct signals to the brain. If the capsule or joint isn't trained through rotation, tension, and end range training at short ranges, at length, the brain doesn't get good feedback. And when it doesn't get good feedback, it still gets the signals. So brain has to use them signals. It has to use the data somehow. So it becomes poor, it develops a poor movement, develops a poor neural pathway. So neurogrooving restores that signal so the body can react and adapt properly. So longevity and resilience. When the nervous system has clean, strong patterns, movement feels automatic and confident. That's the difference between someone who has to warm up forever versus someone who can just move and trust their body. This is crucial. Wrap this around, screenshot this, whatnot, study this, understand this. This will change your body. This will change your life, the way you train, the way you speak to other people about training. And then last thing, the most frequently asked questions. Again, why can't I just stretch more to fix my body? Because we're not loading it. We are improving the length at the tissue. We're improving the confidence. We are letting your nervous system to be confident at stretching. Thing is, like there's no such a thing as tight muscles. The tight muscle is a muscle that is contracted. Like when I have a tight hamstrings, when I move into that tightness, when I feel, oh, that's a tightness. It's not tightness. It's the muscles contracted. Your nervous system is not letting you move further. And by contracting the tissue at length, it's not been loaded. So that's why it's not that it's tight. It's just the muscles are actually working against the push. Because you've never loaded it. You never strengthened that particular tissue at that particular length. So how long does it take to see results? So you will feel results to some degree, depending where you're at in 2 to 3 weeks. Usually 4 to 6 weeks, you see better results. There's things change, you need to be modified. You need to find the right approach, which might take 1 to 2 weeks. And then you're going to see better, more concise, more solidified progress. But the real progress actually happens around 6 months, 5 to 6 months. Do I need a gym equipment? Nope. You can start anywhere. As long as you know what you need to improve, and as long as you assess yourself, you find the weaknesses, you don't need any bands maybe, but you don't need any gym equipment. Bands helpful, yoga blocks helpful, some resistant bands, the big ones, the small ones, some pull-up bar, somewhere to hang or somewhere to attach the bands, chair. You don't need a lot. Is this approach only for athletes? No, it's for human beings. It's for you. It's for me. It's for anyone who wants to better themselves and actually live healthy life with quality movements. Why is rotation so important? Because joints die without the rotation. Like I've had clients who I've done just rotational work and we improved their flexion. We didn't do any flexion, some loading a little bit, yeah, but we actually did a lot of rotational stuff. So you extend rotation, so intern rotation. Some extend rotation here, extend rotation here. You know, there's a zones of these movements. So I always focus rotation before linear because rotation is the most important thing in your joint, especially ball and socket joint. Your shoulders and your hips, and for your spine is opposite. It's actually more linear extension, flexion extension, because spine doesn't really rotate. Okay, it rotates a little bit from your lower back and maybe your cervical, but it doesn't really. You only move. Spine only moves from 24 joints. It has 33 vertebrae and plus facets on vertebrae, so it actually made of like 60 something joints. But there's only 24 of them that actually move. So why not just lift weights normally? Because lifting on broken mechanics is like driving a car with a flat tires. You can still go forward, but eventually you'll blow something out. Fix the joint workspace, meaning the way your joint works, will rotate, then load it, and then get stronger elsewhere. What makes the Human Mechanic method different from yoga or mobility apps? Yoga and apps give you positions. I give you capacity. I give you freedom. I give you understanding. I give you knowledge that you can apply for the rest of your life. It's about touching. It's not about touching your toes. It's about owning the range with strength, so you can actually use it in life and sports without pain. Right. So we need to first get you out of the pain before integrating something more complex. Can I do this on my own? You can, but it's like learning to fix your car engine by watching YouTube. Possible, but you will miss the details that matter most. My clients accelerate faster because I guide them through the exact progression tailored to their joints, to their body. All of this, what I've just gave you, is so helpful to have, because these are the principles I use. There's certain other nuances that I don't want to make this video any longer. It's just almost an hour, but you're gonna have enough keywords to research, enough understanding of what it actually takes to get here or to get from A to B through my system, through my approach. And hopefully you will find valuable things from watching this video, because hopefully that will ignite your curiosity. And, I always say to people, if you're really struggling and you cannot get where you want to get, and you've had painful hips, or shoulders or lower back or knee or like elbow, I guarantee you working with me will solve that faster than doing your own research. I work with hundreds, thousands of people in terms of like online stuff also. But I helped thousands of people through giving free stuff and then doing this and then doing that and then doing the mobility classes in bamboo and one-to-ones in bamboo. So it's like the shit works when you know when to apply, what to apply. So, but yeah, if there's anything that you feel like you want from this presentation, any templates or whatnot, let me know. Message me on Instagram. We've spoken. We have a conversation. So don't hesitate. Let me. And if you're really, really ready to change, just message me, and then I can show you what you can do on your own. And if you feel like you're still struggling, we can just jump on a call and I'll go through how I work. And yeah, hopefully this helped you understand something about my work. And I'm truly passionate about this. And my goal is to help millions of people in the next 10, 20 years and make them understand that there's more they can do, and they can fix the pain they've had. They can, move from surgery to be able to move better and move stronger and be able to run after surgery. The body is beautiful at what it can do. We just need to understand it, how to use these principles, how to use this template, this thing, because when you know how to fix your body and your mind, you're pretty much a superhuman. So thank you so much for sticking up with this whole video. I wish you the best. And if there's anything else that you need from this video or from me, just message me. I'm happy to send you free stuff for you to, solve your problem you're trying to looking for. Peace out.